All right, everybody, welcome back. So Gaijin went ahead and put out the dev server for the new update Air Supremacy, and there is a lot to cover, and I am not 100% sure what exactly Gaijin is cooking just yet. So when it comes to additions, we got the F-15 for the US, Japan, and Israel. We got the Gripen for Britain and for Sweden. Of course, we have the SE-27 for the USSR and China, and we're also getting the Mirage 4000 for France. When it comes to the F-15, of course, they're very similar in-game right now. The F-15J gets the best missiles, and we'll talk about those here in just a little bit. But it has the worst flight performance out of the two, and of course, the F-15A for the US and Israel have the exact same flight performance as of now. We are getting, at least for the US and Israel, we're getting AIM-9Ms and AIM-7M Max. By the way, because we're getting flares, technically this is an MSIP F-15, and so technically, as long as they give it the MSIP radar, which it doesn't have right now, it can use AMRAAM. So there is a slight chance, depending on how things go, Gaijin could maybe rush the AMRAAM in. It's highly unlikely because they said on the live stream, at least for the Russian live stream, they plan to add it either next patch or the patch after that. But there is a slight chance depending on how things go. To be honest, I think they're just going to let it cope for this patch. Eagle Pros, you may as well just get used to having, worst radar missiles for the next 3 patches. But besides that, assuming they fix the flight model, it has a lot of power. Right now, as long as it's above around 700 kilometers an hour or so, it has great acceleration, has good energy retention, and good turn as well. It's just that it does have some issues when it comes to energy retention below around 700 kilometers an hour or so. It's missing AOA in initial turn, apparently, so that should hopefully get corrected. And repeat after me. Everything on the dev server is subject to change. The only flight model that feels like remotely close right now is the SE-27, and even that one isn't 100% done yet. So I would not rely on these flight models being correct on the dev server, so just keep that in mind. There's already enough people screaming on the forums as is, to be honest. So assuming they do decide to go ahead and make this thing a full MSIP, it might get TWS then. In the meantime, it doesn't, and that is historical because the original AN/APG-63 did not have TWS. That was a PSP upgrade that MSIP got. One other thing, I have a feeling the US is going to lose the GBU-8s on their F-15A. I can't find any sources showing it could actually use it. That was just like a pre-production F-15 thing. Now, I said I mentioned the AAM-3, and right now, to be honest, it's not that amazing. It has the exact same IRCCM as the AIM-9M. It has a bit more range, of course, and it's supposed to be 40 Gs instead of 30 Gs, but my friend Jake tested them side by side, and there's almost no difference in the pull. It's barely better. So to be honest, personally, I would probably say the American F-15A is actually going to be better, at least for now at least, because the F-15J is 500 kilograms heavier for a marginal increase in missile capability. If the AAM-3 is just placeholder, this could change, but we're just going to have to see. So when it comes to dogfighting against the SE-27, the F-15 right now pretty much just loses in almost every circumstance to the SE-27. And I mean, this was kind of expected. If you saw my F-15 versus SE-27 video, I showed that the SE-27 did have better low speed performance, so this was expected. The F-15 has a small chance if you can get the landing flaps out and get super slow and abuse your thrust to weight ratio, but that generally doesn't really happen in ARB because they usually win in the first or second turn. Like you can see right here, he managed to take me out, and this is just me, gone. And to be honest, even when they fix the flight model, the F-15 is still going to lose the 1v1 the majority of the time. So the flight performance, though, is secondary, because it would still be alright even if it came as is right now. The big issue is the fact that it's ripping constantly. So the F-15 is rated for 9 Gs in real life, which means that with Gaijin's 1.5 safety rating that they use, it should rip around 14 to 15 Gs in game. It's ripping at 11 to 12 instead. And this is basically unplayable. And it's especially funny because there are F-15s that have taken 15 Gs in real life and made it back to base without losing their wings. They did actually go ahead and pass a bug report already, and I'm pretty sure it's going to get fixed. But if it doesn't, oh Lord of mercy, it's going to be absolutely terrible to play. Now the SE-27, on the other hand, doesn't rip nearly as much. It's going to have very good 1v1 flight performance. And like I said, I'm pretty sure the flight model is fairly close on this one. I would expect it to behave very similar to what it's doing in game. It might get changed a little bit, but for the most part, this is pretty accurate. And its kit is absolutely insane. So you get stock R73s, of course, and you can carry up to 6 R73s. Now, 2 of those are also dual-purpose R27 pylons, so you can either carry R73s, R27 ETs, or R27 ERs in those pylons. The other 4 pylons are all R27R ER exclusive. So you can carry, for example, 6 ERs, 4 R73s, you can carry 6 R73s, 4 ERs, or you can carry 4 ERs, 2 ETs, and 4 R73 as well. This is an insane kit, especially like the ETs already were disgusting, even when you only got 2 of them. And now you can carry those plus 4 ERs. And you can see right here, I've got these 2 guys in front of me. They have no idea these missiles are on the way. I've scored kills at 7+ kilometers rear aspect with these, and they are incredibly difficult to flare rear aspect as well. As of now, the SE-27 is looking like the frontrunner to be the most powerful jet next batch, because it has very good 1v1 flight performance, while having just good performance in general for ARB, while having, without a doubt, the strongest kit of any top-tier jet. 4 AIM-7Ms and 4 AIM-9Ms don't hold a candle to this, especially the Sparrows. The Sparrow is so much worse than the R-27ER, and this thing can carry 6 of them. Now, me personally, I'm going to be running 6 R-73s and 4 R-27ERs, but we're just going to have to see exactly how the cookie crumbles. To be honest, I really don't see a way that the F-15 is going to be a top dog next patch, because I don't think they're going to be adding AMRAAMs at this point, and the ER is just that much stronger than the AIM-7M. The only thing I can think of to maybe make the SE-27 balanced against the current top tiers in the F-15 is restricting it to R-27Rs like I had at the beginning of its service life for now, but I don't see that flying with the majority of the player base, so I think we should all just get ready for the SE-27 to stomp for a little bit. As you can see, it does have excellent AOA and low-speed handling. It does Cobra, for those of you who like Cobraing. This is going to be a very, very fun jet to fly, and I'm looking forward to it. Just a bit of a disappointment for what's going on at the Eagle right now is all. The only real downside I can see for the SE-27 is that it only has 96 countermeasures, but that's still relatively decent. And I mean, even though it's not as much as like the F-15's 240, for example, it's still a decent load. One quick thing, everything I said about the SE-27S also applies to J-11. Because contrary to popular belief, the J-11 is just an SE-27 SK. It's an export SU-27S. There's nothing really different about it. The J-11 doesn't get any Chinese missiles. It just gets the same kit as the SU-27S. The J-11A is kind of like a domestic Chinese SU-27 SKM, which still only gets Russian missiles, and it gets the R-77. The J-11B is the J-11 that gets the Chinese missiles, but it also gets an ESA radar and new engines, and some radar absorbent coating as well, because why wouldn't you want to have that on the flanker? We're nowhere near that right now. I just wanted to make sure y'all were like actually aware of that. In-game, the SK is just like the SE-27S, but it's 400 kilograms heavier because it has reinforced landing gear or something like that, if I remember correctly. Now, I know many of y'all were waiting for this. I'm going to go ahead and start talking with the Gripen now. Once again, these flight models are placeholder. I've heard from very reliable sources the Gripen right now has 20 kilonewtons more thrust than it should have. And considering it's only supposed to have 80.5 kilonewtons of thrust, you can probably see why having an extra quarter of thrust is going to make it perform a lot better than it should. It also doesn't have enough drag and it has too much lift, so I would highly expect this thing to be drastically tuned down when it comes to the live server. Now, it could be wrong, and they could drop it like this and then nerf it later on, which would be incredibly funny, but just don't expect it to be this much of a UFO if it does come to life. Now, if it comes to life like this, it is going to be absolutely insane. Currently, it loses the Block 10 in a dogfight, but it can beat pretty much every other top tier in a dogfight at the moment, and if it does come like this, it's going to be incredibly fun to play. Now, of course, you don't get any competent radar missiles, because you only get sky flashes, and those are terrible, and you also give up your BOL pods if you do so, which, by the way, you get 4 of them. But 6 AIM-9Ms with this flight performance, if it does come like this, which it's going to, but if it did, it would be incredibly funny. The only bad thing about it is the rudder. Like, look at this. It reminds me of the Kafir's rudder all over again. Honestly, it might even be worse than the Kafir's rudder. Like, it is wobbling so hard right now. It's going to make those low-speed stall shots incredibly difficult to actually pull off. Assuming they do fix it, it should just be a little bit worse than the F-16C, and still much better than the Viggen. One of the additions I think is the cooler ones this patch is the Mirage 4000, and this is another one of those very much work-in-progress ones. The flight model feels more done than the Gripen or the F-15, for example, but the big thing that's work in progress with this is its weapon system. So there have been some bug reports submitted for it. It allegedly should be able to carry 8 Magic 2s, and it should also get an extra 2 R530F pylons, which would be pretty cool as well. It's not going to get the Miko rails because those are never actually made for it. I know some of y'all are probably thinking about that. But assuming that it does get the extra Magic 2s, 8 Magic 2s with this airframe is going to be very, very fun. There is also a bug report out to get it a better radar and R530Ds, but they never actually used that, and Gaijin's a little bit iffy on stuff like that, so I wouldn't rely on it. For sure, though, an extra 2 pylons, so 8 Magic 2s total. Overall, though, as long as the things get fixed that I'm worried about, this is going to be an incredible patch. There is a ton of content to go around for Air, and this will be more than enough to carry us until the next year. Let me know what y'all think in the comments below. How do you feel about the F-15's flight model right now, especially the wing grip? I'll catch y'all next time, so peace, y'all.